101 facts about the honey badger. And by the end of this video, you will understand why this animal is genuinely unlike anything else on Earth. We start with the facts that most people find hardest to believe. Fact number 1. Here is how this video begins, and here is why it begins this way. A lion weighing 200 kilograms will walk away from a honey badger weighing 12 kilograms. Not because the lion is afraid, because the lion has done the calculation and decided that engaging this specific animal costs more than it returns. That calculation, made by one of the most effective predators on Earth, tells you everything you need to know about what the honey badger actually is. Fact number 2. The honey badger can rotate inside its own skin. When a predator grabs a honey badger by the neck, the standard killing position for almost any predator, the honey badger's skin is loose enough that the animal can turn its body around inside the grip and face its attacker. A leopard holds it. The honey badger turns. Now the leopard is holding an animal that is looking directly at its face. Fact number 3. A puff adder bite that would kill a dog will put a honey badger unconscious for up to 2 hours. Then the honey badger gets up. In documented cases, it returns to eating the snake it was fighting when it was bitten. The snake that should have killed it has become lunch. Fact number 4. The honey badger's skin is approximately 6 millimeters thick in some areas. To put this in context, human skin is between 1 and 4 millimeters thick on most of the body. The honey badger's thickest skin is on the back and neck, exactly the areas a predator would target for a killing bite. The skin does not just resist penetration, it also allows the animal to move within a bite grip because the loose connection between skin and subcutaneous tissue means the outer layer can shift independently of the body beneath it. That is thick enough to resist porcupine quills. It is thick enough to significantly resist snake fangs. There are documented accounts of honey badgers surviving machete strikes that would have been lethal to almost any other animal of comparable size. Fact number 5. Honey badgers have been documented killing and regularly eating black mambas. The black mamba is the longest venomous snake in Africa, capable of delivering enough venom in a single bite to kill 20 humans. The honey badger eats them as a normal part of its diet, not occasionally, but regularly. Fact number 6. The jaw of a honey badger is strong enough to crush a tortoise shell. The tortoise evolved its shell over hundreds of millions of years as a defense against exactly this kind of predation pressure. The honey badger's jaw bypasses that defense completely. This is not a rare occurrence. Tortoises are documented prey. Fact number 7. Honey badgers have been observed escaping from enclosures using tools. Not in a theoretical or marginal sense. Individual honey badgers in captivity have stacked objects to create steps, used sticks to unlock gates, and repeatedly found new solutions when their previous escape route was blocked. Each time the enclosure was modified, they found a new way out. Fact number 8. The honey badger's pain response is physiologically different from most mammals. Researchers who have studied this animal cannot fully explain it yet. What they can document is that honey badgers receive injuries that would incapacitate other animals and continue functioning with their behavior barely changed. Whether this is a higher pain threshold, a different inflammatory response, or something else entirely has not been fully established. Fact number 9. A honey badger covers between 25 and 40 kilometers in a single night of hunting. For a 12-kilogram animal, this is an extraordinary range. It is the equivalent of a house cat covering the distance between 2 cities in one night and doing it every night. This range is necessary because the honey badger eats almost everything and needs to cover enough territory to find sufficient food. Fact number 10. Honey badgers have been documented surviving encounters with lions, leopards, wild dogs, crocodiles, and Cape cobras in a single animal's lifetime. Not surviving through avoidance, surviving through direct confrontation. This is an animal that has looked all of these things in the face and continued. The Guinness World Records listed it as the world's most fearless animal. That classification, for once, appears to be accurate. Fact number 11. Let us go back to the beginning, where the honey badger comes from and how it got its name. The scientific name of the honey badger is Mellivora capensis. The name was assigned by the German naturalist Johann Christian Daniel von Schreber, who worked from a specimen collected at the Cape of Good Hope. Mellivora means honey eater in Latin. The species was formally described by European naturalists in 1776, but the animal had been known to people living alongside it in Africa and Asia for as long as recorded history exists in those regions. Fact number 12. The honey badger is not a badger. The name appears to have been applied by early European settlers in Africa, who recognized the superficial similarity in build, but did not have the taxonomic framework to identify the animal correctly. The name stuck, as common names do, regardless of its accuracy. Despite the name, it is more closely related to weasels, wolverines, and otters than to the European badger or the American badger. It belongs to the family Mustelidae, which is the family that tends to produce animals more aggressive relative to body size than almost any other mammalian family. The honey badger sits at the extreme end of that spectrum, even within this family. Fact number 13. The honey badger is found across an enormous range. The fact that a single species can persist across this many different environments, from the Kalahari Desert to the forests of Myanmar, is itself evidence of a biology that is adaptable in ways that most carnivores are not. Most specialist predators are tied to specific habitats. The honey badger is not. It lives in sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, the Middle East, and South and Central Asia. This range spans multiple climate zones, from tropical rainforest edges to near-desert conditions. No other mustelid has a comparable geographic distribution. The dietary flexibility and behavioral adaptability that allow this are unusual even among generalist species. Fact number 14. The white silver top and black underparts of the honey badger's coat are not camouflage. They are a signal. In evolutionary biology, when an animal is visually obvious rather than concealed, it is usually because being obvious serves a purpose. In the honey badger's case, the purpose appears to be communication. This animal is advertising its identity to everything in the landscape. They are a warning signal. The high contrast coloration is called aposematism, the same biological strategy used by skunks, poison dart frogs, and wasps. The pattern says, "I am not hiding from you. You should be aware of what I am." Predators that have encountered honey badgers before read this signal and factor it into their decision. Fact number 15. The honey badger's front claws are among the most powerful digging tools of any animal its size. They are also weapons. The same claws that can tear through compacted African soil can cause serious injury to a predator. Field accounts describe honey badgers slashing at the faces of attacking lions with their front claws, while simultaneously biting whatever is within jaw reach. They have been measured tearing through hardened termite mounds and compacted African soil at a rate that leaves researchers describing it as almost mechanical. A honey badger can excavate a burrow large enough to hide in within 10 minutes of starting to dig. Fact number 16. Honey badgers are largely nocturnal, but they are not exclusively so. The flexibility and activity timing is another expression of the broader behavioral flexibility that characterizes this species. An animal that can adjust when it is active based on local conditions is more resilient to environmental change than one whose activity pattern is fixed. In areas where human activity is low and predator pressure is manageable, they have been observed hunting during daylight hours. The nocturnality appears to be a learned or socially transmitted behavior adapted to conditions rather than a fixed biological requirement. Fact number 17. The honey badger has scent glands similar to a skunk's. The scent they produce has been described by researchers who have encountered it at close range as powerfully unpleasant, in a way that is difficult to adequately convey in written form. It is not merely a bad smell. It is a smell with a physical quality to it, one that researchers describe as having an almost tactical effect on anyone who encounters it unexpectedly. When threatened or cornered, it can release a powerful, musky odor from these glands. Unlike a skunk, it cannot spray the secretion directionally, but the smell is strong enough to be a meaningful deterrent. Some researchers have documented predators breaking off an attack specifically in response to the scent release. Fact number 18. Honey badgers sleep in burrows, but they rarely dig the same burrow twice. The burrows are functional rather than elaborate, just large enough to turn around in, just deep enough to be defensible. The animal sleeps curled up and can wake and exit within seconds. The entire shelter system is oriented toward rapid departure rather than comfortable occupation. They are nomadic sleepers. A honey badger moving through its territory will dig a new burrow each day rather than returning to a fixed den. The burrow is dug in minutes and abandoned after one use. This nomadic den behavior makes the animal almost impossible to track through burrow location. Fact number 19. The honey badger's ears are very small and located low on the head. The placement and structure of the ears reflects an animal whose anatomy has been shaped by fighting. Everything that could be targeted in an attack has been minimized or protected. The eyebrows are heavy, the neck is thick, the ears are small and closable. Evolution has been reducing vulnerabilities in this animal's body plan for a very long time. This is not random. Small external ears reduce the surface area that a snake's fangs or a predator's claws can target. The ear canal is also designed to close partially when the animal is engaged in digging or fighting, reducing the risk of debris or injury to a vulnerable sensory organ during exactly the situations where the honey badger spends most of its time. Fact number 20. Honey badgers are documented eating scorpions, including species whose venom is medically significant to humans. The technique is consistent. The honey badger flips the scorpion, bites precisely behind the tail to prevent the sting from firing, then consumes the body. This sequence is learned, not instinctive. Young honey badgers must acquire this technique, which means individual honey badgers have a specific moment in their development when they learn to handle venomous prey efficiently. Fact number 21. The jaw deserves its own dedicated fact because what it can do is not obvious from the outside. The honey badger has a bite force that is extraordinary relative to its size. The measurement that is most striking is not the absolute force, which is moderate for a carnivore, but the force relative to mass, a ratio that places it among the highest for any living carnivorans. The jaw structure involves an unusual locking mechanism that prevents dislocation even when the jaw is under extreme lateral stress, which is why honey badgers can maintain a bite grip on a struggling prey animal without risk of dislocating their own jaw. Measurements of bite force relative to body mass place it among the highest ratios of any carnivore. The jaw muscles are disproportionately developed compared to most animals of comparable size, giving it the ability to crush prey that other animals its size could not process at all. Fact number 22. Honey badgers have been documented eating bee larvae by tearing open active hives. The bees sting the honey badger repeatedly during this process. The honey badger eats through the stings. The thick skin of its back takes the majority of the stings, and its documented high pain tolerance means that what would drive off any other animal simply does not register as a sufficient deterrent. Fact number 23. The relationship between honey badgers and honey guide birds is one of the most well-documented interspecies communication relationships in the animal kingdom. The greater honey guide bird actively leads honey badgers to beehives through a specific call and response behavior. The honey badger follows the bird to the hive, tears it open, eats the honey and larvae, and the honey guide then has access to the wax, which it can digest and which humans cannot. Both species benefit. Both species have adapted specifically to this interaction. Fact number 24. The honey badger's modified nicotinic acetylcholine receptor is the molecular basis for its venom resistance. This specific receptor mutation reduces the binding efficiency of alpha neurotoxins, the class of venom components found in cobra and mamba bites. The mutation does not block the venom entirely, which is why honey badgers can be brought down by large venom doses. But it significantly limits the effect, and combined with what appears to be an unusually fast physiological recovery system, the animal can survive bites that would be terminal in any other mammal its size. Fact number 25. The same nicotinic acetylcholine receptor mutation found in honey badgers is also found in mongooses, which are not closely related to honey badgers but occupy similar ecological niches in similar environments. This is a case of convergent evolution, two completely different evolutionary lineages independently arriving at the same molecular solution to the same problem. The problem being, how do you eat venomous snakes without dying? Fact number 26. Honey badgers have been documented killing and eating king cobras. The king cobra actively defends itself, can rear to head height of a standing human, and delivers venom through a pair of half-centimeter fixed fangs in the front of its mouth. The honey badger approaches this animal as prey. The outcome of these encounters, based on documented cases, favors the honey badger. The king cobra is the longest venomous snake in the world, capable of reaching 5 meters in length and delivering a venom load sufficient to kill an elephant. The honey badger's venom resistance extends to this species. The king cobra is large enough to attempt to constrict the honey badger during the encounter, and some documented cases show the honey badger surviving both the venom bite and the constriction attempt. Fact number 27. The honey badger's thick skin is not just thick, it is also unusually elastic. This combination of thickness and elasticity means that when a predator bites it, the skin resists both penetration and tearing. Most predators achieve a kill by puncturing vital structures or causing blood loss. The honey badger's skin makes both of these significantly harder to achieve, particularly on the back and neck where the skin is thickest. Fact number 28. Honey badgers have been observed raiding the food stores of African wild dogs. Wild dogs are cooperative pack hunters that weigh up to 30 kilograms individually and hunt in groups. When a honey badger approaches a wild dog kill, the pack will often cede the carcass rather than escalate the confrontation. This is not because the wild dogs cannot injure the honey badger. It is because the cost of the confrontation, the guaranteed injury to at least one pack member, exceeds the value of the specific piece of food being contested. Fact number 29. The honey badger digs with its front claws in a specific alternating pattern that maximizes excavation speed. Researchers studying honey badger digging behavior have noted that the technique is consistent across individuals and appears to be near optimal for the soil conditions of their typical habitat. Whether this is genetically encoded or learned through observation of conspecifics has not been established. Fact number 30. Honey badgers are one of the few non-primate, non-corvid species to demonstrate what researchers call deferred imitation, the ability to observe a behavior, not perform it immediately, and then reproduce it later in an appropriate context. This cognitive capability puts them in a very small group of animals and is part of why their tool use is considered genuine tool use rather than accidental object manipulation. The distinction matters because most animal behavior that looks like tool use is actually the animal interacting with an object in a stereotyped way that happens to produce a useful result. Honey badger tool use involves selecting appropriate objects, applying them in novel contexts, and abandoning them when they stop being useful, which is the defining signature of genuine tool use. Fact number 31. The skull tells the evolutionary story of an animal shaped by violence. The honey badger's skull is disproportionately robust for its size. The cranial bones are thicker than those of most animals its size, providing protection for the brain during the kind of violent encounters this animal regularly has. Animals that fight frequently tend to evolve cranial protection over time. The honey badger's skull structure suggests a very long evolutionary history of exactly the kind of direct physical confrontations it is documented engaging in today. Fact number 32. Honey badgers have a documented tendency to castrate large herbivores. This fact is included because it is documented, not because it is pleasant. The behavior appears to be a functional hunting strategy for prey that is too large to kill through conventional means. The honey badger uses the extreme sensitivity of the target area to collapse a much larger animal through pain rather than through physical dominance. It is effective. When attacking animals much larger than themselves, buffalo, wildebeest, and domestic cattle have all been documented, honey badgers have been observed targeting the genitals of the much larger animal. This behavior appears to be a functional strategy. A bite to the genitals causes the larger animal to collapse from pain, making it accessible. Several safari camps in Africa have documented this behavior on camera. Fact number 33. The honey badger's territory can cover up to 500 square kilometers. To travel a territory this size, the animal must know it in detail: where the water is, where the prey concentrations are, which areas are productive in which seasons. This spatial knowledge is built over years and represents an investment in the landscape that makes established honey badgers more effective hunters than younger animals still learning their territory for a single individual. In areas of lower food density, this range expands. The animal maps this entire territory through memory and scent marking, knowing the location of water sources, prey concentrations, and previously successful beehives across a landscape larger than some national parks. Fact number 34. Honey badgers are one of the few animals documented to deliberately play dead. The behavior is rare and appears to be context-specific. It has only been documented in situations where the animal has exhausted other options and the threat is of a type that might be expected to lose interest if the prey appears dead. Whether it is a learned strategy, an instinctive response that has been selected for because it occasionally works, or something in between remains an open question. What is clear is that the behavior is not simple, panic-induced rigidity. Animals that survive the encounter get up and move away purposefully. When cornered with no escape route available and facing a threat too large to fight effectively, some honey badgers have been observed entering a state of apparent death, relaxing completely, becoming unresponsive, lying motionless. When the predator's attention shifts, the honey badger moves. Whether this is a conscious strategy or an extreme stress response that has been selected for because it occasionally works is not established. Fact number 35. The honey badger produces at least 12 distinct vocalizations. These include sounds used in mating, territorial disputes, mother-offspring communication, and threat displays. The threat vocalization, a low rattling growl that escalates to a scream, has been described by researchers as genuinely startling, even knowing it comes from a 12-kilogram animal. Several accounts from field researchers mention the sound as viscerally alarming the first time it is heard at close range. Fact number 36. Honey badgers have been documented killing and eating animals significantly larger than themselves. Cape hares, monitor lizards up to 1.5 meters long, and young warthogs have all been documented as prey. The technique for larger prey is typically a bite to the back of the skull or the throat, applied with the animal's disproportionately powerful jaw. Fact number 37. The honey badger does not have a breeding season in the traditional sense. Unlike many mammals that synchronize reproduction with favorable environmental conditions, honey badgers reproduce opportunistically throughout the year. This reproductive flexibility is part of a broader pattern of behavioral flexibility that allows the species to persist across a wide range of conditions. Fact number 38. Female honey badgers raise their cubs alone, with no contribution from the male after mating. A litter typically consists of 1 to 2 cubs. The cubs are born blind and helpless and remain in the burrow for the first few months of life. The mother moves them to a new burrow every few days, presumably to prevent predators from learning the den location, and must hunt to feed both herself and the growing cubs. Fact number 39. Honey badger cubs begin accompanying their mother on hunts at approximately 3 months of age. They continue to learn from her until they are fully independent at approximately 14 to 16 months. During this period, the cubs observe and acquire the specific hunting techniques for different prey types, including the scorpion handling technique and the approach to venomous snakes that they will use for the rest of their lives. Fact number 40. The honey badger is one of very few animals that actively seeks out venomous prey rather than avoiding it. Most predators have evolved to detect and avoid venomous species. The honey badger has evolved in the opposite direction, toward venomous species as a prey category, with the biological adaptations to make that viable. This is a genuinely unusual evolutionary direction that reflects the specific competitive pressures of the environments the honey badger occupies. Fact number 41. A honey badger climbed a tree to steal from a leopard, and the leopard watched. Honey badgers have been documented raiding leopard kills from trees. Leopards cache their kills in trees specifically to protect them from ground-level scavengers. A honey badger, documented in the Kruger National Park, climbed a tree, not a behavior commonly associated with honey badgers, reached the leopard's cache kill, and fed from it while the leopard watched from a nearby branch. The leopard did not attempt to intervene. Fact number 42. The honey badger's relationship with humans in Africa has a complicated history. In some agricultural communities, honey badgers are considered significant pests because they raid chicken coops, kill livestock, and damage beehives. Farmers have used poisons, traps, and direct killing to control honey badger populations. The honey badger's toughness and intelligence mean that simple control measures often fail. It has been documented eating poison bait and surviving, and springing traps without being caught. Fact number 43. In ancient Egypt, the honey badger was depicted in tomb paintings and was considered a powerful and ferocious animal. Several pharaonic-era texts reference the honey badger's fearlessness. The ancient Egyptians appear to have had an accurate assessment of the animal. Their description of it as an animal that fights things much larger than itself and wins is consistent with modern documented behavior. Fact number 44. The honey badger has been used as a military symbol by several African countries and military units, specifically because of its reputation for tenacity, aggression, and refusal to retreat. South Africa's 1st Special Service Battalion used the honey badger as its emblem. The choice of the honey badger over larger, more visually impressive predators reflects a specific appreciation for the animal's functional rather than symbolic qualities. Fact number 45. Honey badgers can open latches, turn handles, and manipulate mechanical closures. The most striking element of documented accounts is not the capability itself. Many animals can open simple latches, but the speed of learning. A honey badger that has watched a human operate a mechanism once will attempt to replicate that mechanism. Most animals require many repetitions. The honey badger appears to require one. This has been documented in both captive and wild individuals. In captivity, honey badgers have been observed learning to open specific types of latches by watching a human demonstrate the mechanism once. The learning appears to be rapid and the retention durable. A honey badger that has learned to open a specific type of latch will attempt the same approach on similar latches it encounters later. Fact number 46. The honey badger's digestive system is unusually robust. It can process bones, shells, and other structural materials that most carnivores cannot digest. The digestive acids are strong enough to break down tortoise shells that the jaw has already cracked, scorpion exoskeleton, and the scales of large reptiles. This digestive capability expands the range of prey that can be profitably consumed. Fact number 47. Honey badgers have been documented surviving falls from significant heights. Falling from trees while pursuing prey or fighting, they have been observed landing and continuing normal behavior. This is partly attributable to the loose, shock-absorbing quality of the skin, and partly to a generally robust skeletal structure. Fact number 48. The honey badger can run backwards at speed. This capability is rarely documented because it is only used in specific confrontational contexts. But the accounts that exist describe it as a fluid, controlled movement. Not scrambling or stumbling, but a deliberate backwards movement that maintains facing toward the threat. It is used to exit a confrontation without turning, which would expose the back to a predator. This is unusual for a quadruped. The ability to reverse quickly while maintaining full directional control is used during retreating from a larger threat while facing it. The honey badger can back away from a confrontation without turning its back on the threat. Fact number 49. Honey badgers mark their territory with the secretion from their scent glands, leaving marks on rocks, trees, and prominent landmarks throughout their range. These marks communicate the identity, sex, and reproductive status of the individual to any other honey badger that encounters them. The marking behavior is consistent and systematic, suggesting a degree of spatial organization in how individuals manage their ranges. An individual honey badger that encounters a fresh mark from another individual will adjust its behavior based on the information contained in that mark, avoiding or approaching depending on what it reads, to any other honey badger that encounters them. The marking behavior is consistent and systematic, suggesting a degree of spatial organization in how individuals manage their ranges. Fact number 50. In captivity, honey badgers have been observed using the same object in multiple creative ways. What distinguishes this from what most animals do with objects is that the honey badger appears to perceive the object's properties independently of its current use, to understand what the object is capable of, not just what it has previously been used for. This is the cognitive leap that separates tool use from object manipulation. Using a stick first as a probe, then as a lever, then as a step. This object permanence in functional flexibility with tools has been compared by researchers to the tool use observed in New Caledonian crows, which are considered among the most cognitively sophisticated birds in the world. Fact number 51. The climbing capability surprised the researchers who first documented it. The honey badger can climb trees, despite not being known as an arboreal species. Documented instances include climbing to access beehives, raiding leopard food caches, and escaping from enclosures. The climbing technique is not elegant. The animal uses its powerful claws to grip and haul itself upward, but it is functional, and the honey badger can reach considerable heights. Fact number 52. Honey badgers have a documented immune response that is faster than most mammals of comparable size. Recovered honey badgers from venom exposure show accelerated return to normal blood chemistry compared to other species exposed to equivalent venom loads. This accelerated recovery appears to be a specific biological adaptation rather than a consequence of the receptor mutation. Fact number 53. The honey badger is capable of swimming, documented crossing of rivers while traveling its range, and swimming to reach food sources on the opposite bank. Unlike some other mustelids, it is not primarily aquatic, but water does not constitute a barrier to its movement the way it does for many other terrestrial predators. Fact number 54. Honey badgers have been observed engaging in what appears to be play behavior in captivity. Young honey badgers engage in wrestling, object manipulation, and chase behaviors with both conspecifics and objects in their environment. Play behavior in carnivores is generally associated with learning, practicing hunting and fighting skills in a low-stakes context. The play behavior of young honey badgers may be part of how they acquire the techniques they will later use in real hunting situations. Fact number 55. The honey badger's brain-to-body mass ratio is one of the higher ratios among carnivores. This measure correlates imperfectly with intelligence, but is consistently elevated in species that demonstrate advanced problem-solving and tool-use behaviors. The honey badger's ratio places it in the company of animals whose cognitive capabilities are considered exceptional for their class. Fact number 56. Honey badgers have been documented entering the burrows of other animals, aardvarks, warthogs, porcupines, and using them as temporary dens. When the burrow's original occupant is present, this sometimes results in a confrontation. Documented confrontations between honey badgers and porcupines over burrow access have consistently resolved in the honey badger's favor, despite the porcupine's quill defense. Fact number 57. The honey badger has been observed caching food, burying or concealing portions of a large meal for later consumption. Food caching requires spatial memory and planning, and its presence in honey badger behavior contributes to the picture of a cognitively sophisticated animal operating with more forward planning than most carnivores its size. Fact number 58. Honey badgers have a documented ability to recognize individual humans. In research stations where honey badgers have regular contact with different people, they demonstrate differential behavior toward individuals, showing more caution around people who have previously disturbed them and more confidence around those who have not. This individual recognition across species is a cognitive capability not found in most animals. Fact number 59. The honey badger's fur on its back is coarser and longer than its fur on its underside. The back is the surface most exposed to attack, most exposed to sun, and most exposed to the biting and stinging of prey fighting back. The underside is the most thermally sensitive and least likely to be attacked. The body has different fur for different surfaces because different surfaces face different demands. This structural difference has functional implications beyond appearance. The coarser back fur provides some additional protection against biting and stinging, while the shorter, denser underfur provides thermal insulation. The different fur types on different parts of the body reflect different functional demands on those surfaces. Fact number 60. Honey badgers have been documented surviving arrow wounds from indigenous hunters. The historical accounts from southern African oral traditions and early written records are consistent in their description of the honey badger as an animal that does not respond to injury the way other animals do. The word most frequently used across different accounts in different languages is variations on the same concept. It does not stop. Accounts from southern Africa describe honey badgers that were struck by arrows and continued moving, requiring multiple strikes to incapacitate. Some accounts describe honey badgers pulling arrows from their own bodies and continuing. These accounts are historical and anecdotal, but they are consistent with what is documented about the animal's physiology in controlled settings. Fact number 61. Even within the honey badger's own species, the rules of engagement are strict. The honey badger's mating behavior is not well documented because the animals are solitary, nocturnal, and territorial, a combination that makes observation difficult. The brief encounters that have been recorded in the wild suggest that courtship is minimal, and that the female's assessment of the male is rapid and decisive. In captive settings, female honey badgers have been documented severely injuring males that attempted mating at inappropriate times, which is perhaps the most honey badger possible version of reproductive selectivity. Because the animals are difficult to observe in the wild, what is known suggests that mating encounters are brief and that the female has control over the timing. She will only allow mating during specific periods and will aggressively reject advances outside those periods. Even a male honey badger learns quickly that an unreceptive female honey badger is not worth pressing. Fact number 62. Honey badgers have been observed digging up and eating the buried food caches of other animals. Cape ground squirrels, ground hornbills, and other animals that cache food have had their stores raided by honey badgers. The honey badger locates these caches through smell, excavates them with its digging claws, and consumes what it finds. This dietary opportunism extends even to stealing from species that have already done the work of finding and storing food. Fact number 63. The honey badger has been used as a character in the mythology and folklore of numerous African cultures. The consistency of the characterization across different cultures is striking. Animals are typically mythologized through their most visible or dramatic qualities. For the honey badger, that quality is apparently so obvious and so consistent that no culture that has lived alongside it has missed it. Of numerous African cultures, in many of these traditions, it represents a specific quality, not strength, not speed, not size, but something closer to stubborn, enduring resistance. The cultural representation of the honey badger across different African societies is remarkably consistent in this theme, suggesting that different cultures independently arrived at the same accurate assessment of the animal's essential character. Fact number 64. Honey badgers are capable of vocalizing at very high frequencies, above the normal range of human hearing. Researchers using ultrasonic recording equipment have documented honey badger vocalizations in the ultrasonic range that were not previously known. The function of these ultrasonic calls has not been fully established, but their existence suggests a communication repertoire more complex than the documented audible calls alone. Fact number 65. The honey badger's liver is unusually large relative to its body size. A consistently enlarged liver in an animal with this diet and lifestyle pattern suggests that the organ is working harder than in comparable animals, processing compounds that require metabolic detoxification at a higher rate. The specific pathways by which the liver contributes to venom resistance have not been fully mapped, but the organ size is consistent with a system under continuous high demand. A large liver is associated with high metabolic processing demands, which is consistent with an animal that regularly processes venom and which eats a varied diet, including items with high levels of biological compounds that require metabolic detoxification. The liver size may be part of the physiological system that allows the honey badger to eat what it eats and survive what it survives. Fact number 66. Honey badgers have been documented living for up to 24 years in captivity. The lifespan in the wild is considerably shorter, estimated at 7 to 8 years, due to the accumulated effects of injury, predation, and the physical demands of the lifestyle. An animal that regularly fights things larger than itself does not accumulate years easily, but the potential lifespan suggests a physiology capable of long-term function under extreme stress. Fact number 67. The honey badger has been observed using specific locations repeatedly for specific purposes. Particular rocks or tree stumps are used consistently as marking posts. Specific areas within the territory are used for certain types of hunting. This spatial organization of behavior within a territory suggests a level of environmental mapping and planning that goes beyond simple stimulus-response hunting. Fact number 68. Honey badgers have been documented interacting with humans in ways that suggest they assess individual humans the same way they assess other predators. In areas where honey badgers have had prolonged exposure to humans, they show different threat responses to different body postures, direct eye contact versus averted gaze, and rapid versus slow movement. They appear to read human body language using the same threat assessment system they apply to other species. Fact number 69. The honey badger's kidneys are adapted to concentrate urine more effectively than most carnivores of comparable size. This adaptation is associated with arid environments where water conservation is critical. The kidney adaptation is one of several physiological features that allow the honey badger to operate in near-desert conditions where water sources are infrequent. Fact number 70. Honey badgers have been documented surviving being struck by vehicles and continuing. Road mortality data from areas where honey badgers are common shows that while they are hit by vehicles, the proportion that die immediately is lower than for most comparably sized mammals. Some documented cases involve animals that were struck, appeared dead, and then moved away when the vehicle stopped. This is consistent with the animal's documented resilience to blunt trauma. Fact number 71. The military noticed. This is not a metaphor. The honey badger has been studied by military researchers interested in its biological systems. The combination of venom resistance, pain tolerance, wound resilience, and rapid recovery represents a set of physiological properties that have potential applications in military medicine and protective biology. Several published papers from military medical research institutes have specifically cited honey badger physiology as a model system. Fact number 72. Honey badgers have been documented eating food that is toxic to most mammals. Certain plants and fungi that are poisonous to domestic animals and humans have been observed being eaten by honey badgers without apparent ill effect. Whether this represents genuine toxin resistance or simply a very high threshold for the toxic dose is not established, but the behavior is documented. Fact number 73. The honey badger's face is almost entirely black, which makes its expression difficult to read by human observers. Researchers studying honey badger behavior have noted that the standard visual cues used to assess emotional state in other mammals, ear position, eye widening, facial muscle tension, are less readable in honey badgers because of the black facial coloration and the structural differences in facial musculature. This contributes to the impression that the animal's internal state is opaque, which it may not be. Fact number 74. Honey badgers have been documented raiding snake nests. African rock pythons, puff adders, and spitting cobras all lay eggs in concealed nests. Honey badgers locate these nests through smell, excavate them, and eat both the eggs and, if present, the adult snake guarding the nest. This means the honey badger is both consuming the snake's offspring and surviving the adult snake's defensive response in the same encounter. Fact number 75. The honey badger's digging speed is fast enough that it can disappear below the surface of the soil in less than 10 seconds. This has been documented in pursuit contexts. A honey badger being chased by a larger predator, vanishing underground before the predator can reach it. The ability to create an instant refuge essentially anywhere on soft ground makes the honey badger much more difficult to kill than an animal of its size and speed would otherwise be. Fact number 76. Honey badgers are documented scavengers as well as hunters. They follow vultures to carcasses, steal food from other predators, and consume carrion when they find it. The combination of active hunting and opportunistic scavenging means the honey badger operates effectively across a much wider range of food availability conditions than a pure predator or a pure scavenger could. Fact number 77. The honey badger's body temperature regulation is unusual. It can tolerate a wider range of body temperatures than most mammals without impairment, a property called heterothermy, usually associated with desert-adapted species. This allows the honey badger to function in the extreme heat of the African day and the cold of the desert night with less metabolic cost than a strict homeotherm would incur. Fact number 78. Honey badgers are one of the few animals documented to deliberately defeat a security measure repeatedly and successfully. In game reserves where electric fencing has been used to protect areas from honey badger intrusion, the honey badgers have been documented testing the fence, learning its properties, and finding or creating gaps, not accidentally, but through what appears to be deliberate investigation of the fence's weaknesses. Fact number 79. The honey badger has been documented entering termite mounds through the exterior, eating the termites and larvae inside, and then using the empty mound as a temporary den. This represents a single behavior that simultaneously functions as hunting, den construction, and food storage access. Three separate survival needs addressed by one action. Fact number 80. Honey badgers have been recorded vocalizing in what researchers describe as a rattling roar when engaging large predators. The vocalization functions as both a threat signal and what appears to be a genuine expression of aggression. Animals that retreat when confronted vocalize differently. The sound is typically higher pitched and more sustained. The honey badger's confrontational vocalization is low, percussive, and escalating, which is the acoustic signature of an animal that is not considering retreat as an option. The similar that functions from this and what retreated is often when engaging large predators. The sound, produced by a 12-kilogram animal, has been described as disproportionately loud and disturbing relative to the animal's size. Field researchers have reported that the sound, heard unexpectedly at close range in the dark, is genuinely alarming. Several accounts describe experienced wildlife researchers being startled by the vocalization, even when they knew the honey badger was there. Fact number 81. The immune response is as unusual as everything else about this animal. The honey badger's immune system appears to respond more rapidly to venom than other mammals tested. After a venom exposure event, the progression from incapacitation to full function takes significantly less time in honey badgers than in comparable mammals. The mechanism behind this accelerated recovery has not been fully characterized, but it appears to involve both the receptor mutation and additional immune processes that are not yet understood. Fact number 82. Honey badgers have been documented living in the suburbs of cities in parts of Africa and the Middle East. Urban honey badgers adapt their hunting and den selection behavior to the urban environment, using storm drains as dens, hunting rats and domestic chickens, and navigating human-built environments. Urban honey badger populations tend to be bolder around humans than rural populations, which appears to be a learned adaptation to the different threat profile of the urban environment. Fact number 83. The honey badger has been documented surviving a bite from a Mozambique spitting cobra. The spitting cobra can project venom up to 2.5 meters, accurately targeting the eyes of a threat. The venom, which causes severe tissue damage and potential blindness in humans, appears to be significantly less effective against the honey badger's eye tissue than against human tissue. Honey badgers exposed to venom in the eyes have been observed continuing to function without apparent permanent damage. Fact number 84. Honey badgers have been studied for potential insights into treating snake envenomation in humans. The honey badger's receptor mutation is not the only molecular mechanism involved in its venom resistance, and researchers are interested in the full suite of adaptations because understanding how the animal survives may point toward interventions that could help humans in regions with high snakebite mortality. Snake envenomation kills approximately 100,000 people per year globally. Any biological insight into venom resistance is medically significant. The specific receptor mutation that reduces neurotoxin binding in honey badgers has been examined as a potential model for developing treatments or antidotes for alpha neurotoxin envenomation in humans. While no direct clinical application has been established, the honey badger's molecular solution to the venom problem remains an active area of research interest. Fact number 85. The honey badger does not have a fixed home den. This nomadic approach to shelter is behaviorally unusual and may have evolved specifically as a countermeasure against predator learning. A predator that has located a honey badger's den and is capable of digging it out would find a reliable food source if the honey badger returned to the same location repeatedly. By making the shelter unpredictable, the honey badger eliminates this vulnerability. The cost of digging a new burrow each day is minor for an animal whose digging speed is as extreme as the honey badger's. Unlike many mammals that return to the same shelter repeatedly, the honey badger digs a new den almost every day. This nomadic denning behavior means that a predator that has learned the location of a honey badger's den has information that is obsolete by the next night. The animal's shelter location is essentially never predictable. Fact number 86. Honey badgers have been documented surviving being buried under soil collapses in their own tunnels. When a tunnel collapses while the animal is inside, The honey badger's digging capability allows it to excavate its way out. Multiple documented instances from research contexts describe honey badgers emerging from apparent burrow collapses that would have been fatal to most burrowing mammals. Fact number 87. The honey badger's visual acuity is not exceptional. It is, in the context of this animal's full sensory profile, almost beside the point. The nose and the ears together create a sensory picture of the environment that is detailed, real-time, and three-dimensional in a way that vision is not. The honey badger, navigating in complete darkness, using only smell and hearing, has access to information about its environment that a human with full vision in the same setting does not. In daylight, its vision is adequate but not remarkable. What compensates is the animal's extraordinary reliance on scent and hearing, which together create a sensory picture of its environment that is detailed and accurate enough to allow effective hunting and threat detection, even in conditions of poor visibility. Fact number 88. Honey badgers have been observed sharing food with other honey badgers outside of mother-offspring contexts. This observation has been repeated enough times in different research contexts to suggest that it is not anomalous. The standard characterization of the honey badger as a strictly solitary animal is probably an oversimplification. Like most characterizations of animal behavior derived from limited observation periods, it captures a tendency without capturing the full range of what the animal actually does. Outside of mother-offspring contexts, in areas where food sources are concentrated, 2 adult honey badgers have been documented feeding simultaneously from the same source without conflict. This tolerance of conspecifics at food sources is not typical mustelid behavior and suggests a degree of social complexity that is not captured by the standard description of the honey badger as a solitary animal. Fact number 89. The honey badger's sense of smell is sensitive enough to locate bee nests underground. The olfactory capability involved in this is significant. Underground structures produce minimal scent gradients at the surface. The concentration of any scent component is diluted by the soil between the source and the animal's nose. The honey badger's ability to locate these sources through soil suggests an olfactory sensitivity that operates at concentrations most other mammals would not be able to detect. Beehives that are established inside hollow logs, rock crevices, or below the ground surface are located by honey badgers through scent alone, with no visual information available. The animal then excavates to reach the hive, in some documented cases removing substantial amounts of soil and rock to access the honey below. Fact number 90. Honey badgers have been documented killing prey using water. Chasing small prey animals into water features, shallow pans, puddles, small streams, and then drowning them. This has been documented as a specific hunting strategy rather than an accidental outcome of a chase that happens to end in water. The behavior parallels the water strategy documented in killer whales, which herd seals towards shorelines to strand them, a form of environmental weaponization that most researchers consider sophisticated when they observe it in cetaceans. In a 12-kilogram mustelid, the same strategy receives less attention, but the function is identical. Of a chase that happens to end in water, whether this represents cultural transmission of a hunting technique or independent discovery by individual animals has not been established. Fact number 91. Every account of keeping a honey badger as a pet ends the same way. The honey badger has been kept as a pet in various parts of its range. Uniformly, the accounts of these arrangements describe them as failures. Captive honey badgers escape repeatedly, destroy property systematically, injure their owners, and demonstrate that the cognitive capability and physical resilience of the animal make it fundamentally unsuitable for domestication. Every account ends with the honey badger either escaping permanently or being released. The animal has not been domesticated in any human culture, despite thousands of years of coexistence. Fact number 92. The honey badger's population has declined in some parts of its range, but it remains one of the more resilient, medium-sized carnivores in Africa. The same qualities that make it difficult for predators to deal with, the intelligence, the flexibility, the sheer persistence, also make it difficult for human pressure to eliminate. Poison campaigns that have reduced other carnivore populations have had limited success against honey badgers, partly because the animals are cautious about novel food sources, and partly because even when they consume a lethal dose of certain toxins, they sometimes survive it, due to habitat loss and direct persecution by farmers. However, across most of its range, it is listed as least concern by the IUCN. The species has proved more resilient to human pressure than many comparable carnivores, largely because its dietary flexibility allows it to survive in fragmented and degraded habitats where specialist predators cannot persist. Fact number 93. Honey badgers have been documented biting through metal. This is not the behavior most people associate with a 12-kilogram animal that primarily eats insects, eggs, and snakes. But the combination of jaw force, the locking bite mechanism that prevents dislocation, and the sheer persistence that characterizes every other aspect of honey badger behavior produces, in the right context, an animal that will work at a metal barrier for as long as necessary. Several zoo facilities have had to replace enclosure elements that honey badgers had partially or fully compromised. This is not routine behavior, but in captive contexts where metal enclosure elements are accessible, honey badgers have been documented biting through wire mesh, thin metal sheeting, and padlock shackles. The documented bite force, combined with the persistence characteristic of the animal, produces this result when the animal is motivated to access something on the other side of a metal barrier. Fact number 94. The honey badger's skin regenerates unusually quickly after injury. Wounds that would take weeks to heal in most mammals of comparable size show significantly faster closure and recovery in honey badgers. This accelerated healing appears to be part of the same physiological system that underlies the rapid recovery from venom exposure, a generally elevated rate of tissue repair and immune response. Fact number 95. Honey badgers have been filmed killing prey larger than themselves by targeting the prey's most vulnerable point with extreme precision and then waiting. A honey badger documented attacking a young wildebeest bit the nose of the animal, a point of extreme sensitivity, and held on. The wildebeest, despite outweighing the honey badger by more than 20 times, was unable to dislodge the honey badger from the bite point, and the encounter ended when the wildebeest exhausted itself. Fact number 96. In traditional medicine in parts of Africa and the Middle East, honey badger body parts are used as components of medicines believed to confer properties associated with the honey badger's reputation: fearlessness, resilience, and resistance to venom. While the medical efficacy of these preparations is not established, the use reflects how deeply the honey badger's qualities have impressed themselves on the cultures that live alongside it. Fact number 97. Honey badgers have been documented surviving without food or water for periods that would be dangerous for most comparably sized carnivores. The combination of the water-concentrating kidney adaptation, the ability to extract moisture from prey, and the metabolic flexibility associated with a highly varied diet gives the honey badger a resilience to resource scarcity that contributes to its ability to persist in environments where other predators cannot. Fact number 98. The honey badger does not appear to have a natural position in the prey hierarchy of the African savanna. It is too aggressive to be straightforward prey for most predators, too small to be a significant predator of large game, and too generalized to occupy any of the specialist predator niches. It exists in a category largely of its own, an animal that interacts with every level of the food chain on its own terms, conceding nothing to size, speed, or conventional predator-prey hierarchy. And now, the 3 facts we save for last. The 3 things about the honey badger that are hardest to process when you actually sit with them. Fact number 99. There is documented video footage of a honey badger being bitten by a puff adder, collapsing, lying unconscious, then recovering and returning to feed on the same snake. And this happens not once in this footage, but twice in the same recording. The snake bites the honey badger a second time during the feeding. The honey badger collapses again. It recovers again. It continues eating. 2 lethal doses of venom from one of Africa's most dangerous snakes, delivered to the same 12-kilogram animal in one session, and the animal survives both. This is not a claim. This footage exists. Fact number 100. A honey badger in captivity at a facility in South Africa was documented escaping from its enclosure 14 times over the course of several months. Each time the enclosure was modified to prevent the specific escape route the honey badger had used. Each time the honey badger found a new one. The facility eventually documented the honey badger building a rudimentary ladder from mud and debris to reach a section of the enclosure wall it could not otherwise access. It climbed the ladder it built. It escaped. The staff described watching the footage of this and not being entirely sure what they were looking at. Fact number 101. The last fact is not about what the honey badger can survive. It is about what the honey badger appears to understand. Researchers studying honey badger cognition have documented something that they describe carefully and with academic hedging because it sits at the edge of what can be claimed about non-human animal cognition. In tests of self-recognition, the mirror test used to assess self-awareness in animals, some honey badgers have shown responses consistent with self-recognition. Most animals that pass this test are great apes, dolphins, elephants, and magpies. The honey badger may belong in that category. An animal that can rotate inside a predator's grip, survive 2 puff adder bites in one session, build a ladder to escape an enclosure, and may recognize itself in a mirror. That is what 12 kilograms of evolution in the African savanna has produced. And it is still out there tonight, covering 40 kilometers in the dark, eating things that should kill it, and not stopping. The Sahara has its fennec fox. The savanna has its honey badger. 2 animals, 2 completely different strategies. One is small and fast and clever enough to hide from everything. The other does not hide from anything. It walks toward the thing that is threatening it, it opens its mouth, and it deals with the situation. In 40 years of wildlife research across the African continent, the honey badger remains in a category that no other animal occupies. Not the apex predators, not the giants. This 12-kilogram animal, still out there, still not stopping,